And welcome everybody to the Huddle, King 9 streaming sports talk show every week at this time. But this is the final one of the year. I'm Jason Barr, joined as always by Pat Parris. Pat, I heard you were a little emotional in the newsroom earlier. Hey, listen, we've had some good ones, and hopefully we'll be back next year. But this is our final one of the year.
I'll find a way to get through it, Jason, and then I'll look forward to 2023 and the return of the Huddle after we take a couple of weeks off for obviously well-deserved vacations as we hit the holidays.
These have been fun. We've had some good discussions. I think the most animated one this year had to do with DeAndre Ayton and his performance in the Suns playoffs. But that's for another day. We wanted to save one of our better guests for last, and that would be Ryan Hansen. He's the Arizona basketball color analyst on the radio to talk about the Wildcats, especially following this big win over Indiana. And boy, Ryan, have they played well in those MTEs, is it called, multi-team events, neutral site games against ranked opponents, and they came through again this past weekend against the Hoosiers in what was really a home game kind of for Indiana. I can't believe how many people they brought with them to Las Vegas.
Yeah, first of all, it's an honor to be on the Huddle. It's an honor to be one of the last guest of the year. So thanks, Pat, Jason. I love getting on with you, and you know I love nothing more than talking Arizona basketball. And I was at the game at the MGM Grand Garden Arena, and Jason, you're right. It was shocking the number of Indiana fans that came out to Vegas. And you think about this, Indiana doesn't play in Las Vegas very often. Arizona's there every year and has been for the last decade because of the Pac-12 tournament. So maybe a little bit of the nuanced feeling of how special it is to be playing a basketball game in Vegas is a little off there. But the fans were, I would say, 65-35 IU fans, and they were raring to go. You know, they're kind of back and maybe relevant in basketball world. And Arizona, what I love the best part about it, Brian Jeffries and I sat there and said to each other, wow, this could get a little hairy. And he said, not if we take the fight to them and take them out of the game early, which is exactly what Arizona did.
Yeah, and then Ryan, every time Indiana made a run, and you know in college basketball everybody makes a run, but they made multiple runs. But every time Arizona was able to kind of gather themselves and push that lead back, I thought that was the most impressive part, is how they handled themselves.
You've heard it for years. Clark Kellogg used to always talk about that on CBS college basketball, that it's a game of runs. Good teams aren't going to wither. Good teams aren't going to fold. Indiana not going to fold. And maybe that was the second most important thing of the game if we were to rank things, right? Arizona took the fight, used their tempo, the pace, and established dominance early. And then every punch came with the counter punch. Timely made threes from Kirk Kriisa, timely made threes from the bench, which we haven't seen a lot of this year as a productivity side of things from Adama Ball. Obviously the bigs, and I know we'll talk more about Azuolas and Umar, but Arizona responded and really truly never gave up control of the game. Once they took the lead at 7-6, they never lost the lead. It got down to one possession, 59-56, boom, boom, boom. All of a sudden Arizona's back up 10, and the game was essentially in hand after that.
All right, so let's talk about the bigs. To me, what I want to see from Azuolas Tubelis is how he does in a big game, right? Because we all know what happened in March in the NCAA tournament and how much he struggled. So I'm not really concerned how he does tonight against Texas A&M Corpus Christi. I want to see how he does, right, against that could be a fun name. I want to see how he does against Indiana. I want to see how he did in Maui. I want to see how he does against the big opponents. And he's done a good job there. And my goodness, Umar Ballo has gone from a project a year and a half ago to a legitimate Pac-12 Player of the Year candidate. No?
Yeah, my feedback, Azuolas, you're not wrong, right? I wouldn't say he withered per se. Might have been under the weather in the NCAA tournament is what a lot of people have said. But nonetheless, big stage, big game, you're a junior. It's time. If this is your team, Azuolas, then you need to rise to the occasion and not just have the 30-point games in those home blowouts against directional state universities. And he did that very thing. He used his athleticism, used his quickness, and he is definitely developing into maybe the best running big man in the country. And then sideline next to him, not on the sideline now, but is Umar Ballo. And I was talking about this to somebody this morning. Everyone loved Christian Coloco's development from his sophomore to junior year, and arguably the biggest development we've seen in a number of years in an Arizona uniform. And I would say it was on the skill side. Umar Ballo has developed on the skill side and the physical side. His transformation physically it's incredible. He's making plays he could not have actually made last year. And why has he done that? He's gotten stronger. He's built up his core. He has better footwork. He's got better stamina. He can run the floor. He's agile. He made a couple of plays in the Indiana game that I think back and I know would have been either offensive fouls on a fast break in the second half where he stopped on a dime and he got a pass from Adama and then just laid it off to Pella. And there was another play also in the first half. That was in the first half. Check my play-by-play there. In the first half, he knocked the ball away from Chase Jackson Davis in the low block. By the way, preseason All-American, who he locked down, went sprinting to the sideline, leaped into the crowd to save the pass from going out of bounds, and it keyed a break for Kerr Kriisa to hit a three. He couldn't have done that last year. He would have bowled over the fans, rolled into the second row, and Arizona had given them the basketball back. And so it's that level of transformation, not just skill, but the physical overhaul of his body. And give credit to the strength team on staff and the coaches for developing him, and Umar. What hard work he's put in. It's proving itself. That kid is going to be making money as a basketball player because of how he's developed.
Yeah, without a doubt. Ryan Hansen is our guest here on the Huddle. Ryan, we've been waiting a little bit for Pelle Larsson to kind of have a breakout game. We know what he can do defensively. Got in some foul trouble in some of the games early on. Maybe that limited a few of his minutes and that kept some of the stats down. But he really played the game that we were all expecting him to play, maybe weeks ago. Maybe it's a sign of him maybe understanding now what it's like to be a starter and how much they need him, really.
Yeah, dark horse is an all Pac-12 player possibly coming into the year. I had a great summer with the Swedish national team, guarded Luka Doncic in multiple opportunities. I think everybody started ratcheting up their expectations of Pelle and maybe himself as well. And I couldn't agree more. We need Pelle not only on the defensive end, on the glass. He's versatile. He can guard multiple positions. If you noticed in the game against Indiana, the Wildcats put him at the 4 spot. He defended the bigs after their big started knocking threes down. What did we do? Switched off, put Pelle on him instead of Umar or Azuolas, and all of a sudden the threes stopped falling at the same frequency from Indiana. So his versatility defensively is so key, but when he can do what he does offensively, that I don't want to say is gravy because he's really part of the recipe for Arizona basketball. That he was super aggressive, and I loved it. I loved seeing him not settle for jump shots early on in the game against Indiana. He took it to the rim, attacked it hard, and got a back cut in the second half at a critical point with a great 2-hand slam. The 3-point shot, not there, right? He's missed his last 10 threes in a row. And so you think about, can Arizona get better? Is the ceiling reached at this point? Clearly not, because Pelle Larsson on the offensive end has a lot more room for him to contribute, and that's only good news for Arizona.
That's funny because we did see some of that chatter on Twitter. Yeah, Arizona, you won by 14 over Indiana, but Indiana's got a higher ceiling. says who, right? All right, so Ryan, we've got some stats to put up here on some of the offensive prowess that the Wildcats have done this year. And to me, what this looks like, I thought this was last year's stats, right? They're doing this without Ben Mathurin, without Dalen Terry, without Christian Coloco, different players still running up the numbers. What does that say to you about either Tommy Lloyd or this year's team?
I think it says everything about this program that Tommy Lloyd has put together, which it starts with unselfishness. It starts with wanting to play hard and unselfishness and have fun. And it's showcasing itself in the stats. And I'm not saying it's a system that you can plug anybody into, because that's when you have to give credit to the players and what their willingness to make the next pass, give up a good shot for a great shot. How about it's contagious? How about Umar's over-the-head pass to Azuolas? Did you see that coming, Jason? I mean,
well, on the left hand, I think it came around the left side. Yeah,
it was
stuff they wouldn't have done last year. Is your point?
Correct. They've developed, and it's clearly being taught in practice. It's being fostered. It's being encouraged. And I will add one more thing to it. Kerr Kriisa takes a lot of heat for all the right reasons, right? If he's tongue wagging and kissing, blowing kisses to people in the crowd, he deserves the heat, right? And I think he likes it. I think he thrives on it. But let's give some credit to this kid. 4th in the nation in assists per game, and he is always looking to advance the ball. Who doesn't want to play with the kid that has his eyes up and has the willingness and the ability to complete those long passes. I think he is very underrated as a point guard when it comes to his willingness to look up the floor and advance the ball. And that starts Arizona's tempo. That's where the pace of play starts, is with his willingness to get rid of the basketball.
Ryan, Texas A&M Corpus Christi tonight. Okay. But looming large over the weekend is Tennessee. I think we're all looking forward to that after what happened at Tennessee last year when we saw, a crowd there really impact perhaps even the officiating during that game. Can't wait.
Oh, they got hosed, Pat. You can say
I
it.
know they did. I didn't really want to go there.
I'm not one of those guys where all the officiating makes a difference. They got hosed in that game.
Yeah, well, but the point is now it's the McHale Magic, and we get the red clad fans taking down a notch or two. Hopefully that Tennessee Volunteer Orange.
Well, thank you for mentioning the Islanders of Texas A&M Corpus Christi, because if we learned one thing about this team is they can overlook teams. The Utah loss clearly to me was the halo effect of Maui.
And the Islanders scored 100 points in their last game, so they're not terrible.
They're not terrible, and they've got some unique pieces. So you can't overlook anybody. We've seen that all across college basketball this year with stunning upsets. But Pat, you have to admit, you've circled this date on your calendar, literally on December 23rd last year when I was flying home from Knoxville. I was at that game, calling it on the radio with Brian. I couldn't agree with you more that we got all the home cooking against us, and that's okay, because that's part of basketball. It's part of college. It's part of the difficulty of winning on the road, and why when you do, it's so special to do that. So not expecting that on Saturday night. What I know I will see is unbelievable defense. Tennessee is rated from an efficiency standpoint the #1 defense in the country. Arizona, the #1 offensive adjusted efficiency team in the country. It is strength on strength. It's going to be a battle. Guys are going to have to make tough shots. They're going to have to fight through physicality. They're going to have to take care of the basketball, because Jason, you remember, not only was it the foul trouble or the calls that went didn't go Arizona's way. Arizona turned it over like they were opening a bakery in Knoxville. It was just, here's a donut for you, here's a pastry for you, and it was layup. All of a sudden, Arizona was kind of like Indiana, fighting from the underside of it from the very beginning. So I expect an electric atmosphere in McHale. This one has the potential to be one of those games, right? Pat, you've been to a zillion of these at McHale, and we can kind of asterisk some of them throughout the years. This has the potential to be one of those special nights.
It's why when we had the chance to get a half-season ticket package, because I work during the week, I can't go to a lot of the games during the week, but I made sure that the half ticket package I got had the Tennessee game in it.
You bet.
For sure.
I love it.
Yep.
Yeah, UCLA last year, the atmosphere for that. Remember Florida about 10 years ago when Gonzaga's been here. Hey, Ryan, I'm a little concerned about the following. Alleviate this concern. 3-point defense. Indiana missed a ton of shots, okay? They missed their first 7 3-pointers. They missed other wide open looks. They make some of those shots. It's a much different game. It's not the only time we've seen this. Am I right to be concerned about the Wildcats' 3-point defense?
I would not use the word concern. I would use the cautious about saying Arizona's a national title contender looking at their total defense. You look at their total defense, they're not good enough, in my mind, to be a legitimate national title contender as of yet. And the 3-point defense is part of that. You're absolutely right. Now, Tommy Lloyd, if you watch him closely and how he scouts against opponents, he recognizes you can't take everything away. It's physically impossible in any sport. In football, you can't stop it all unless you are the legit juggernaut. Basketball is the same way. And so Arizona made a concerted effort. They did not want Trace Jackson Davis to beat him. They did not want him to have a triple-double opportunity. They did not want him to operate in space and just dominate in one-on-one play in the low block. So they intentionally strategized to play defense the way that they did. One of the results was that guy, Race Thompson, goes 4 for 7 from the 3-point line. You probably saw this. He was 3 for 18 coming into the game this season, meaning he had made 3 threes in 9 games. He made 4 against Arizona. It was a little bit of pick your poison. Like, do you go with the stats that he's not going to make the shots all night long, or do you go with what you already know?
They left him wide open, Ryan. They left him wide open. Yeah.
I'm not saying it was the perfect strategy all night long, but you're right. To be where Arizona basketball expects to be. Their 3-point defense has to get better. They're one of the best 2-point defense teams in the country. So do you sacrifice a little bit of the 2-point defense to be better at the 3-point line? Because it's a game changer. It's the difference maker in college basketball. Arizona hits 10
Brian,
threes
that's
and-
how you get upset in these NCAA tournament games against these first-round teams who you have no business being upset when they go 20 for 40 from three-point land.
Oh, I agree. On that one given night, you could give it up. I would rather have a stout 2-point defensive team for the whole year that puts me in a higher seed than defend the 3-point line, give up higher percentage shots throughout the year in the hopes that you can get by. It is a little bit of a style and a strategy decision. I think we're aligned with our thought process. Arizona is not good enough yet to defend the 3-point line to make the deep run we all want. That is definitely one of the areas to work on throughout the year.
Ryan, if you talked about defense, if you look at everything you've seen through 9 games going into the 10th game tonight, for Arizona to repeat as Pac-12 champions and get one of the the coveted high seeds, what do they have to do besides the defense you already talked about? What do you want to see out of this team?
I want to see them take care of the basketball. We see all those stats, right? Number 1 in offensive scoring, number 1 in field goal percentage. Well, if you don't get a shot, you can't flex your muscles when it comes to that field goal percentage or getting the points on the board. And we've seen this Arizona team. Jason, you mentioned the 3-point defense. Boy, have we seen them throw it all over the ballpark too on the offensive end. And so they've got to take care of the basketball. That would be one of them. The real piece, I think, is they have got to play with pace. This is a team that I think last year they didn't have to play with the breakneck pace because you had guys like Ben Mathurin who could get the shot when he had to. You could be slowed down to a grind, and you had playmakers and athleticism that you could overcome some of those things. I think this team has to play at a fast pace. And I realize the old saying goes, it's easier to slow somebody down than speed them up. But Arizona can speed people up, and they've got to know that. They've got to do what they did against Indiana and dictate pace. And it doesn't mean fast breaks. Playing with pace doesn't mean you're getting fast break lay-ins all the time. That's a part of it. You can play with pace in the half court. You can come down and walk it up and then play with pace at that point. That's what Arizona has got to do if I were to pinpoint a couple of things.
Ryan, why no minutes for Dylan Anderson? He's going an extra player deep in the backcourt with Adama Ball, who had a good game the other day, and also with Kylan Boswell. So, I know it's tough to play 10 guys. He's playing 9. He's probably going to shorten the bench maybe to 8 late in the year. Who knows? We'll see what happens. There's injuries and all the works. But you don't think he can get Dylan Anderson a couple of minutes in these games as opposed to just in garbage time?
I would love to see Dylan get some time, especially, tonight, or there's a couple other opportunities between Tennessee and the ASU game, because you never know, right? There could be an injury, there could be foul trouble. I think Tommy prefers the 3-man bigs and rotating in and going small with Cedric Henderson or Pella at the 4, depending on the defensive matchup, versus bringing another 7-footer in, and that Dylan's not prepared to play big, because you have to have an understanding of how to do that, where he feels confident, I feel, in Zoo or Umar to be in there by themselves. And so I just think strategically he's looked at what puts us in the best position to win this year. And I think all along when he recruited Dylan, it was with the promise that I'm going to develop you, not the promise that you're going to get 10, 12 minutes as a freshman. And you just hope in this day and age with the transfer portal and all that looms out there that Dylan's bought into the process and appreciates what Tommy and staff have to offer. Because he's a great kid and he's got great size. And I think in time as a big, he could develop into somebody.
Ryan Hansen is our guest. Ryan, of course, the color analyst on Arizona Wildcat basketball broadcast. But, you have great respect for the whole athletic department, the athletic program. You know a lot about coaching. I'm leading up to asking you about the tragic news about Mike Leach, the former Washington State and now Mississippi State coach who passed away overnight. Before we came on the air, you wanted to mention it. It is just a shocking bit of news to a guy that I think we all really respected and appreciated his dry sense of humor.
Yeah, what a pioneer in college football. The things that he did as a coordinator, and then that led to his head coaching career and opportunities were revolutionary. What he did on the offensive end, and he did it his way. That's, I think, what stood out to me is we've seen so many coaches have the coach speak in the press conference. They sound the same. You could really just put, fill in coach A, B, and C at a press conference, and they're going to say the same stuff. And you got authentism from him. You got funny. You got quirky. The pirate, the one-eyed Jack. I mean, he was so unique in that space that I don't think he took himself so seriously that he had to be on as the press conference head coach every minute of every day. And I heard somebody say this morning, and I think it was really a neat way to talk about him, is he was so unique in the space. He never played college football. He didn't really come from a true sports background. He was a lawyer.
Played a little rugby.
Played a little rugby, but he was a lawyer. He
Yeah.
went to law school. And this guy was a genius in multiple verticals, and he took that understanding of the law and how to break things down and took it to the football field and the rearing of young men. And he did it in a way that was clearly his own and put his stamp on the college football map. And something else I read today is that he statistically will miss the opportunity to be inducted into the College Football Hall of Fame by, I think, 0.4% of a winning percentage. I think he's at 59.6 or something like that, 59.4. And you have to be at 60%. And somebody said, come on, it's time. There needs to be a recognition of what he's done and vote him in. And I couldn't agree more. But to your point, Pat Parris, across the board in athletics, very recognizable and respected man in the sports industry, and a tragic loss to the sports world today.
Yeah, it was just shocking. Yeah, it really was.
I won't eat any candy corn for the next few days. Out of respect.
Because of him. Yeah,
that was one of his famous quotes.
Right.
Didn't like candy corn. Hey, Ryan, that was great stuff. Really
Yeah.
appreciate the insights on U of A basketball and everything going into tonight and Saturday for the people watching and listening later in the week on the OTT recorded platform. So good stuff. Hope to have you back next year. Really appreciate the insights and the color, and thanks for being a guest here on our last huddle of the year.
Jason, Pat, happy holidays to you and all those watching in the huddle.
All right. Thanks, Ryan. I'll see you Saturday. I'll stop down.
Sounds good.
All right.
All right, Pat. Well, that was good stuff. Hey, we just got a couple of minutes left, so I just want to go to the best of and the worst of 2022. Okay, best of. I don't know if it's best of, but just because it made, I was kind of alluding to this earlier, just because it made good, they say good radio, or in this case, good streaming. We really got into it on that day that I put a lot more blame on DeAndre Ayton's loss, on DeAndre Ayton for the Suns' loss in the playoffs. You did not. I thought that was a really good one. And then the most awkward one, I would say, hey, great guy, great football analyst, but the Yogi Roth one was a little awkward. Yeah, I think you two were having a little bromance there in that one.
We hadn't talked in a while, Jason. We hadn't seen each other in a while. We go way
what
back.
Else?
We go way back.
What else?
Hey, real quick, Matt Stone, this is too live. We're live right now. You might watch it later on streaming, which is what that's the whole point. At Tuesdays, 3:00, we're live, and he has to be watching right now because it came in at 3:19.
Oh, sorry, Wally Wildcat. We could have asked him about the women, but we didn't.
We didn't see it.
We're just going on the men. I think we're all kind of bummed right now about how the women did against Kansas.
Real quick with the women, Jason. Yeah. We saw some little chinks in the armor at the end of last year, and we were wondering what was going on. And then they had a little bit of an earlier exit than we anticipated in the NCAA tournament. And I'm not saying it's to that level yet, but maybe it's just a chance, or it's going to take a little bit more time for so many new players to gel with the players that were already here and established, and we just haven't
except for the fact that they said they were gelling fine before, the Kansas game.
Yes, but you get sometimes when you finally play a team that might be a little bit better than you get exposed, and maybe they go back to the drawing board, they go back to work, and you would expect them under Adia Barnes to be better in a month than they are today.
Well, I want to not make too much of one game, because that was there wasn't much good out of that. So, I mean, there was nothing good to say about the 27-point home loss to Kansas. So the only thing I'll say is, all right, let's not go too crazy off one game. Let's see a couple more. But if it's a couple more like that, I'd rather see them lose with freshmen than graduate transfers.
Yep.
because that, I'm not there yet, because obviously if they just play Maya Najee and Caitlin Gilbert and Paris Clark and give them tons of minutes all year, obviously not going to make a deep tournament run. These are a bunch of freshmen. That's going to be tough for them kind of going into the Pac-12 season, playing against Stanford players and all that. But if they're going to stink it up, I'd rather see them stink it up with freshmen. But let's just not make too much out of one game, and let's give them the benefit of the doubt. That's what I'll say.
Yeah. They've got a lot of season left. Texas Southern coming up on the 14th, then Baylor, that's not going to be good. UT Arlington, then ASU. They really get into the Pac-12 schedule starting on the 29th of December.
Yeah.
So that'll be when you really want to pay attention how things are going then.
All right, we got to wrap this. We got to leave it here and wrap this up. But so thanks everybody for listening, and certainly Desert Diamond as well, and we appreciate that, and everybody who's listening and tuning in. We get a lot of viewers later in the week on the OTT and the recorded, so we appreciate that, and we've had a lot of fun doing this, and we hope to continue it next year. So Pat, if there's anything else you want to say.
No, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy Hanukkah, best of the new year, and we'll look forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks.
Perfect. All right. Thanks, everybody, for watching and listening here on the Huddle in 2022. For Pat Parris, I'm Jason Barr. Like Pat said, have a happy holiday season, and we'll see you on the other side.